Weeds have a way of testing patience. For years, the only solution seemed to be bending over, pulling them out by hand and filling bucket after bucket. The problem was that no matter how much work went in, they came back stronger the next week. For younger gardeners, this is only tiring, but for anyone carrying age or injuries, the constant stooping can become painful and discouraging. After years of pulling, hauling, and never really winning, I knew the approach needed to change. It wasn't that weeds couldn't be managed, it was that the method was wrong, and when I finally switched to something different, the endless battle turned into something almost effortless. Why pulling weeds doesn't solve the problem. The problem with hand pulling is simple, it only removes the surface. A dandelion root broken halfway will regrow. Grass rhizomes split in the soil will double. Every time the soil is disturbed, more weed seeds are exposed to light and heat, which, triggers another wave of growth. Worse still, the bare soil left behind after weeding is really the perfect invitation for new weeds to move in. Pulling weeds isn't fixing the soil. Honestly, it's feeding the cycle. That is why, no matter how consistent the effort, they always return. And the answer is covering the soil, not exposing it. What finally worked wasn't more pulling, or more chemicals, or even more precision tools. It was quite simply covering the soil so weeds never had the chance to see daylight. The method is sheet mulching, sometimes called the lasagna method. Instead of disturbing the weeds, you smother them where they are and feed the soil at the same time. The key is to block light from reaching the weed seeds while layering organic matter that breaks down into humus. Over time, the weeds suffocate, the soil loosens naturally, and fertility rises without backbreaking labor. How to build a weed smothering layer step by step. The first layer is a barrier. Cardboard works best because it's thick enough to block light but breaks down into carbon-rich matter. Lay it directly over the weeds, overlapping edges so there are no gaps. On top of the cardboard comes moisture. You want to soak it thoroughly with water before adding anything else. Dry cardboard won't bond with the soil, and, weeds can sometimes push through if it isn't pressed down firmly. This is also the moment to add nitrogen for balance. Grass clippings, fresh manure, or even kitchen scraps can go directly on top in a thin layer about 1 inch thick. The final layer is the mulch cover. This can be shredded leaves, straw, wood chips, or any bulky material that shades the soil and holds in moisture. For lasting results, lay it at least 3 inches thick. In heavy weed zones, 5 to 6 inches gives even better suppression. As rains fall and microbes feed, the layers fuse into the soil below, turning the problem patch into a living, fertile bed. Now, this method really does save you a lot of time and labor in the long run. The first time you give it a go, it does take a bit of setup, but honestly, after that, the work pretty much stops. Instead of having to bend down and pull weeds every single week, the mulch cover actually keeps new weeds from sprouting in the first place. Even those perennial weeds that somehow manage to poke through come up weak and, they're really easy to pluck out in just a few seconds. More importantly, the soil underneath becomes darker, softer, and much easier to plant in over time. So, let's talk about some practical examples of how to use this method in your beds. For a raised bed, you want to start by laying cardboard across the whole surface before you plant for a new season. Then, just cut holes directly into the cardboard for your transplants like tomatoes or peppers. Fill those holes with compost, pop your plants in, and then cover the rest of the bed with mulch. The weeds underneath never get a chance to compete, and your crops will really thrive in their protected zone. For pathways, you'll want to use 2 layers of cardboard with about 4 inches of wood chips on top. This will keep your walkways clear for a whole season without needing to reapply. In those high-traffic areas, just refreshing the chips once a year is usually enough. Now, for open ground, like a plot that's been taken over by weeds, cover it with cardboard. Add a single inch of grass clippings or manure and then lay down about 5 inches of straw or leaves. Leave it all in place for a full season, and by the next year, the ground will be fertile and nearly weed-free, so you can plant directly without much fuss. Now, why does this method work better as we age? Well, for older gardeners, the real gift is just how much bending and straining it actually eliminates. Instead of working harder each year as those weeds come back, the workload really does decrease over time. The soil more or less improves itself, and the mulch just keeps feeding it while holding weeds in check. What once felt like a never-ending battle turns into simple upkeep, with only a few handfuls of mulch added here and there. The garden becomes manageable, honestly, no matter the season or how many years go by. Years spent pulling weeds have shown one thing: hard work doesn't always mean smart work. By covering the soil instead of disturbing it, weeds simply lose their grip, and the soil starts to build life rather than lose it. Sheet mulching is really the shift that makes gardening sustainable for the long term. It's less strain on your body, more food for the soil, and honestly, a permanent solution to a problem that never truly went away by hand. If this guide has helped you rethink weed control, make sure to subscribe to Soil Doctor and share this with other gardeners who are ready for methods that save their soil and, well, their energy too.